On today's episode, I'm going to be making a diorama that I should have made last year. It's going to be for our family's nativity scene, which happens to be CharlieBrown inspired. I kind of got an idea of what I want to do, but like CharlieBrown always says, "Dear Journal, it's me, Doug." I got this case from Amazon last year to protect our nativity scene from our too inquisitive and often cracked out kitties. I'm thinking of making only the floor and the back curtain of the stage. This way you'll have a clear view of the scene at either angle. We think we got these around 2010 from Kmart and possibly Toys R Us, but that's still being investigated. The whole crew is here. Chucky B, Lucy, Linus, Woodstock, and Snoopy. Here we have the three Magi and Sally as an angel. For the display, I'll be using this foam board I got at the 99-cent store. I trace out the base and then cut it with the speed and accuracy of a mongoose. No need to adjust your television sets. That line is straight as an arrow. With the magic of editing, I make my ability to measure out a straight line seem like a superpower. This took like 5 minutes. Once my lines are traced out, I cut off the excess, leaving me with a stage that'll fit perfectly on the display base. I like using these thin sheets of foam when I have to make wood flooring. They're pretty good with capturing the details. Just gotta make sure everything fits flush. Using the stage, I mark off the excess, and with all the pieces measured out, I take my foam and cut it off screen. Now it's time to glue it down. I learned that from a guy named Murphy. I give the board a good coating of glue with a brush that clearly wasn't thoroughly washed, and start pressing down my foam sheets. You want to make sure you get them lined up and really press down. Don't be afraid to put some pressure on it. We gotta keep this thing from warping. So you're gonna want to push down at about 100 beats per minute, and always remember the song.
First I was afraid, I was petrified.
After that, a few heavy items should keep it nice and flat. 24 hours later, I'm back and it looks good. I'm gonna make the planks this width, which can only mean one thing: more measuring. With my plank placement lined up, I begin marking out the lines with a pen, using a bamboo skewer to further accent the gaps. This gets repeated for every line. Next, I add a random line here and there to distinguish between the planks. Nice! For the wall, I wanted to design this biblically inaccurate stable and have it as a centerpiece in the back. I'm going to cut this piece of foam to match the pitched roof. Now, the reason I call the stable biblically inaccurate is because Jesus likely wasn't born in a stable or a barn. The word inn used in the book of Luke refers to the guest room of the house. It's the same Greek word Luke uses for the upper room where Jesus ate the Passover with the 12 before his arrest. Because the guest room was full, perhaps due to the census, Mary and Joseph likely stayed in the lower level of the house, which was divided between an additional living space and where the animals slept at night to keep them from the cold and thieves. This would account for the manger or feeding trough that Mary would eventually lay Jesus in as a makeshift crib. That moment of brief biblical study spared you from watching me struggle getting this roof cut evenly. I mean, look at this. You wouldn't believe how many tries this took. But if someone asks me how do I do it, I'll just tell them.
Do you know how easy this is for me?
To make the bricks for the wall, I have a little shortcut up my sleeve. It's gonna be my first time trying this out. Just a little bit of pressure and... I just flipped it and rolled it all over the back. That's good enough. I'll use this small cup to draw out the top of the window, and then relying on my amazing leveling skills, I use a ruler to draw the other ends. Afterwards, using a fresh X-Acto blade, I release the window from its bondage and clean up the interior of the frame. Next, I'll use these cut pieces of foam board to act as the sidings of the stable. I'll make a diagonal cut at the top of each piece so that they can easily connect with the roofing. Once I decide how long I want my roofing to be, I mark it off with a pen and then get to slicing. With the roof raised, I'm gonna add a stone border to the window. Now with the help of my trusty rock, I can give the stones and brick a nice rock texture. The next thing I want to do is work on the curtain, and for that I have an idea. Using this file folder, my plan is to cut it into strips, and then fold the strips so they can have a sweet crease like the spine of the folder. After my strips are cut, I start to gently fold them down the middle in order to mimic the appearance of a pleated curtain. Now that all those are done, I'm going to set them aside while I start to paint. I begin by adding a very washed out paint to my already primed wall, which I'll end up repainting in a minute. I give the wood pieces a good coating as well. These will remain the same. After they've dried, I give them a swift coating in lighter shades of brown. Remember how I mentioned I redid the wall? Well, I scrapped my original plan of painting it in washes and instead coated the whole thing in one solid color. Even though it's flat, it fits with the flat paint apps of the Peanuts figures. With that, I can move on to the assembly portion. I don't have any mud and straw, so this thing is going to be kept together with a little hot glue. I mix up a few paints to get the perfect pinkish color for my curtains. A couple coats and these curtains are ready for showtime. I trace out an outline of the window and stable to give me an idea of where the curtain needs to go. I line up each piece, making a little crease at the bottom so that I know where to cut. Using some more Mod Podge, I begin to lay down each panel with a curtain. It's a process that's rinse and repeat. A little bit of gluing and a couple of sick tricks. While I'm gluing down the curtains, I do my best to avoid blocking the window because I have a night sky set aside that will be glued in the center. I paste the remaining curtains down and it's time to get cracking on the main stage. I load my airbrush with some Woodstock yellow and begin to give the entire stage a generous helping of the canary colored coating. With that done, I want to punch up the colors a little more, so I add a bit of orange to the mix. For the roof, I want to make a simple patch of straw to put up there. To achieve that, I'm going to be using this paper that I've gotten inside some of my most recent packages. I think it's just a thing I need. To sell it as hay, I'm going to need to cover it in this pale yellow color. I end up painting multiple shreds of paper on both sides. Now that it's done, I figure if I rip up random pieces and crumple them, I can place them on top of the roof and stage them as I go. There's really no exact method to this, it's more like rip it and place it and see what works. After I have it how I want it, I can cover the whole thing in Mod Podge and glue it as one piece. Next verse is same as the first, glue and paste. You just want to make sure it doesn't cure completely flat. You want it to maintain a sort of pitched look, so don't flatten it down when you glue it. As I go, I make sure to keep putting it back on the roof so that I can mold it into the correct shape.
Glue it, mold it, pinch it, batter.
After I'm satisfied with how the straw looks, I glue it down to the roof, hot glue the stable to the curtain, and this stage is done. Take it away, Linus.
Lights, please.
It doesn't matter if you think he was born in a house, a stable, or a cave. What matters most is the purpose of his birth. Christ came to offer his life up as a payment for the sins of the world, and it is only by faith in him that we are counted as righteous before God. To quote the Apostle Peter, "There is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven that has been given among mankind by which we must be saved." If you don't know the Lord, I encourage you to read the Gospels. I'll leave a link below, and you can also email me. I'd be happy to talk with you about them. May the Lord bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious to you and give you peace. Merry Christmas to you and your families as well. Until next time, my friends.